G'day battlers, and today we're going to be talking about the Scroll Cup meta that is coming to the Go Battle League from March 11th through to March 25th. The first week alongside Ultra League and then alongside Master League, where it will be 4 times Stardust rewards, so definitely the big week to grind if you are keen for it. Now, what is the Scroll Cup? Because it is the first time that it is coming to the Go Battle League. It's kind of thematically built around Urshifu, which is sort of the, I guess, theme Pokemon of the season. And so it is a Great League Cup with only 3 typings, Water, Fighting, and Dark, and there is a single ban of Primarina because a Pokemon with Charm hitting both Fighting types and Dark types super effective, while also being a Water type to resist the water damage, would be pretty powerful in this meta for sure. So we'll jump straight into it, but before we do, if you haven't subscribed already and this is content that is going to be interesting to you or useful to you for future Go Battle League metas, please do go ahead and hit that subscribe button so this stuff comes to your YouTube inbox. With that said, let's get into it, and of course we have to get the thumbnail as well, so perfect. Now we've got their sort of 4 main groups on the graphic over there and some other core breaker picks down below us as well that we'll talk about towards the end of the video. Let's start here though, because we have the main 4. Let's start in the very top. We have the fighters with Chesnaught, Annihilape, Gallade, and Medicham. If we sort of follow the circle around clockwise, we then have the MudBois with Gastrodon, Quagsire, and Whiscash. Swampert actually also fits in this group, but I haven't put it here on the graphic. In the bottom, we have the electric types with Lanturn and Morpeko, and then over on the far left side, we have the sort of dark types plus Toxapex. So the Drapion, Mandibuzz, Spiritomb, Sableye, and Toxapex. So let's just start with that sort of the fighters, I suppose, because that is going to be one of the big 3 typings. And so there's a lot of different varieties here. We've got Chesnaught, who sort of has a big claim to fame in that it does have that grass type damage. So we can really hit the MudBois for big, super effective damage while also being able to hit Morpeko. And so that's why you've got an arrow coming towards the MudBois and towards that electric group down the bottom as well. Gallade is in a similar spot where it has access to Leaf Blade. Technically, Gallade does have access to Charm, which, you know, again, theoretically does hit the Darks and the Fighters for big, super effective damage. And so I think there is, you know, just cause to run it. But 2 things. 1, Gallade is quite squishy, so it doesn't get as much advantage from Charm as something like Primarina would get. And also, it makes, by having Psycho Cut as your fast attack, you find yourself getting a lot of wins that you might not have gotten otherwise because you are so quick to your big Leaf Blade or close combat that can really sort of seal the deal against a lot of Pokemon in the meta. So personally, I would push for Psycho Cut, but I think that you could definitely run Charm if you were so inclined, and if the meta shifts in a direction where that could be quite useful to you. Annihilape is a bit of an interesting one in that you do have access to that Rage Fist, which obviously, as we've seen in the Open Great League for the last 3 months, can be a very, very powerful move. And so just, you know, it really gives you nice coverage across the board while you still have some ability to hit dark types with your coverage move as well. And then Medicham is kind of here because its Dynamic Punch has been buffed and it can do a little bit of work, although it probably is one of the worst fighters of the bunch. I think Chesnaught is probably going to be the best of the lot because there isn't a lot of Pokemon running around that are doing super effective damage to Chesnaught, so I really do think that Chesnaught might be the main guy. Then we move sort of clockwise around to the MudBois, and I should have mentioned as well that they are generally losing to those ghosts and darks and poisons, or the flyers, I should say. There is just a lot of big damage that are coming through, but you know, especially Annihilape has some potential to fight back against like Spiritomb, for example. There's a lot of ability to fight back, to be honest with you. There are going to be a lot of neutral matchups in this meta, but for the most part, generally they are going to lose. But the MudBois generally losing to the fighters, but they are obviously going to win against those electrics pretty hard. That is kind of their main role, but they're also able to beat up that dark group over on the left-hand side. Obviously, they're going to beat down Pokemon like Toxapex and Drapion because they have that weakness to ground. That's absolutely massive for them. They're similarly able to just add up a lot of damage onto Spiritomb. Sableye just doesn't really have anything to hit them with, and Mandibuzz, to be honest with you, Mandibuzz is actually quite good back against the MudBois, so that's a bit of an asterisk, exception to the rule for the most part, although it can lose to the Quagsire and the Whiscash. Gastrodon is pretty solid win for the Mandibuzz, even if it's running Water Pulse. Swampert, again, should probably be on the graphic, but it's pretty decent into Mandibuzz as well, with its brand new buffed moveset too. And then we've got the electric types. They're going to lose to the fighters, they're going to lose to the MudBois, but but they are pretty solid counters to that sort of group of darks and ghosts, partially because you have Morpeko in there that has that ability to do that, have the dark typing, so resist a lot of the damage that they're throwing, especially with regards to the ghost. But then you've got Psychic Fangs to hit Pokemon like Toxapex. You've got Electric type Aura Wheel to hit like Mandibuzz and Toxapex, and then the dark type Aura Wheel can really do a lot of damage to the ghosts too. But, even if you're hitting a resisted move onto one of these Pokemon, like if you're hitting the dark type Aura Wheel onto Mandibuzz that resists it, it still kind of does a chunk of damage, especially because by the time you get to the dark type Aura Wheel, usually you're sort of one stage boosted as well. So it's sort of a Pokemon that can definitely do a lot of work, and this meta is almost custom built for Morpeko to thrive. Lanturn is just a bit of a side grade, I suppose, where you aren't as glassy, you've got a bit more bulk to you, and so it'll be a bit more of a neutral Pokemon across the board. Then we have that, group on the left-hand side, generally going to beat the fighters, generally losing to the MudBois and the Electrics, although, again, they do have some significant playback if you can get them in a good spot. But let's talk about the core breakers down below us. We have the Azumarill. Azumarill is, I think, the highest ranked Pokemon that I haven't put on the main graphic, and it's a core breaker for a reason. It can beat up the fighters sometimes. It's a little bit scared of the grass type. It can beat the Electrics sometimes if it lands a Play Rough onto a Morpeko. It can do okay neutrally against the MudBois, against like the Ghost and stuff. Like it loses to Toxapex, but it beats Mandibuzz. So it's very just a little bit wishy-washy in between the gaps. Jellicent is kind of similar in a similar way. You've got access to Shadow Ball that is going to hit so much of the meta. It has just had Hex buffed recently, so maybe it'll be a bit crazy than I expect it to be. But you've also got that Surf for some neutral damage around as well. Guzzlord and Kommo-o, I should say. I always get confused which one's which, but they're just doing big dragon damage. Guzzlord has the advantage of resisting all of that ghost and dark damage at the consequence of taking super effective damage from fighting, and Kommo-o is just a little bit more of that fighter role. It really does lose a bit harder to Pokemon like Mandibuzz. But yeah, really, in a nutshell, that is the Scroll Cup meta. Let me know if there's any other takes that you think I've missed, any big Pokemon that you're expecting to be good that I haven't talked about. Let me know if I just talked a little too fast in this one, because I think I might have turned the speed up a little bit high, but let me know either way. And with that said, thank you to my patrons and supporters on YouTube as well. And if this content is useful to you, again, please do go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, whenever that may be. But until then, I'll catch you. Bye.